Welcome to the Saints Happy Hour podcast featuring Dave Cariello, Andrew Juge, Ralph Malbrough, and when he decides to show up, Kevin Held. We are the perfect blend of Saints sincerity and stupidity.
How many RPMs would it take for the Julio copter to actually fly away, and how many fumbles would happen as a result?
Well, that's a trick question because you can only fumble once.
If you're not having fun when your team is 11-2 and wins back-to-back division titles for the first time in 50 years, then you need to stop watching.
And now, here's your host, Ralph Malbrough.
All right, let's start the show in style.
Spot the holder down, the kick is up. It's good! 58 yards, Will Lutz with the game winner! Saints win it, 30-28.
Magical. Welcome to Saints Happy Hour podcast. It's a Tuesday. The Saints are 1-0 and in first place. And yesterday nearly fucking killed me. Dave, you were in attendance. That stadium was loud. People were into it. It was amazing. And I don't even know where to begin, where to start. What was your reaction? Because me and Andrew talked about it on the show this morning. The recap. What was your immediate reaction to it?
I've got a lot of thoughts.
I want to thank the defense because the defense was so terrible that they allowed the Saints to win. If they'd have been just 10% less terrible, I don't think the Saints would win. Like, they had to be the perfect amount of horrible at the end of that game to give the Saints a chance to win.
Well, and obviously you couldn't have been surprised. I mean, just before we even get into all that, because I want to get into all that, but before we get into that, you mentioned the crowd. I thought from at the start of the game, the crowd was crazy loud, and I really was thinking to myself, you know what? It feels like we're picking up right where we left off last year or earlier this year, technically, picking up right where we left off at the NFC Championship game. Now, it wasn't people yelling, from immediately following the play for every down. But I mean, they were loud on the first series when the Saints were on defense. They were loud on third down. But obviously things calmed down once the game got underway and the Saints started losing and kind of took the crowd out of it. I'll also say there were a lot of Houston fans. And I mean, I'm not surprised because Houston's only a 5-hour drive, a good excuse to come to New Orleans.
My flight was 50% full of Houston fans.
There were a lot
on Monday afternoon.
I have seen the Saints play. I haven't actually fact checked this, but it's got to be true that I have seen the Saints play every single other NFL team in the Superdome, and by far the Pittsburgh Steelers fans have traveled the best. But I mean, man, the Texans fans, Houston's, they gave them Steelers fans a run for their money yesterday. Normally the fans are in like one. And what's really weird is that the Saints the Texans gave back some of their allotment of tickets. So obviously most of these people must be buying them on secondary markets like StubHub or SeatGeek, one of our sponsors or whatever. But I mean, normally they're in like one corner, just like I was when I was at Tulane.
Sprinkled all throughout.
Yeah, they were the whole lower bowl. They were all over much of the lower bowl. So I was really surprised.
Did they sing? I couldn't make it out. I think they were singing that song.
Yeah, they had some sort of
The Stars Are Blue. What's
maybe.
That song?
You're
Deep in the Heart of Texas. That's the song.
You're out of all the people on this podcast, you're the one that lives in Texas, so you should know that song.
Yeah, Deep in the Heart of Texas.
Is that what they were singing? Yeah, I couldn't make it out either. I didn't know whether it was some like Houston.
Andrew, we have a little bit of break. We have this. We have breaking news. Ted Ginn got Aaron Colvin of the Texans cut. The Texans cut Aaron Colvin tonight. He was the one that gave up the pass to Ted Ginn at the end of the game. He's making $8 million from the Texans, even though they cut him today. So Bill O'Brien must have been mad as hell at him. But Ted Ginn is a one-man recession, apparently.
Well, so let's talk about the end of the game. So, I was surprised. Peyton did the right thing when the Saints had the ball with under a minute left. He did 3 running plays. He forced the Texans to use all 3 of his timeouts, of their timeouts, and I thought for sure. I'm not saying I don't disagree with running on the next play. And then obviously they let the clock run down and they called the timeout. But I was a little surprised because I thought that Peyton might have been a little more aggressive.
It was long, though, wasn't it, Andrew? It was like 3rd and 11.
It was long. But I was kind of surprised, and it makes me wonder if maybe he had the NFC Championship game in the back of his head, because in that game
I thought that too.
Yeah, he elected to pass, and it didn't work out. So I kind of felt like he was a little more conservative than he normally was.
Yeah, maybe playing the odds a little bit.
Yeah, and that's fine, because you don't expect your defense to give up 75, 80 yards in 2 plays.
Before you go there, there's just one thing I want to acknowledge, because I don't think we'll ever remember this kick after everything else that transpired. But that 47-yard field goal that Lutz makes there, that is a huge kick, because if he misses that, then the Texans are down 3 and in great field position, and they absolutely can tie the game, if not win it.
Right.
And I'm sure we'll talk about the 58-yarder plenty, and that justifyingly so will kind of be what everyone remembers. But I just want to point out that 47-yarder, like that, it took stones for him to hit that, and that was a huge kick.
Can we talk about the kick for a second? And I didn't know this until my flight landed in New Orleans and I saw the gifts and stuff. Him and Morstead were celebrating as soon as it left his foot. Like, they were literally him and Morstead were not high-fiving, but they were doing like some choreographed thing where it was still in the air 30 yards away. And Morstead on Twitter was like, when you know, which is pretty awesome.
I had a great view of it. I was right in the middle of the entire path from left to right. And, as soon as he kicked it, you could hear it. He definitely hit the shit out of it. It was definitely a louder thump than a normal, it was more of a thud. But when he kicked it, I knew immediately it was a very low trajectory, and I knew immediately that it had the distance. Just from where I'm sitting, I just can't tell whether it's straight or not. I have to look at the screen, but I knew it had the distance.
See, I don't even for big kicks.
A couple of people have tweeted this, and I wholeheartedly agree. He could have made that from 60.
I don't look at the screen. And I can't really see the ball because I'm at a weird angle like you. I just look at the crowd behind the goal, and as soon as he hit it, they were pumped. And I was like, I think it's gonna get there, because the crowd will tell you, right? Like if it's down the middle or whatever, or kind of iffy, the crowd will literally and you can hear it from the end zone. So I
was convinced there was going to be a flag. Like everyone, I was watching with my dad and my son. My son stayed up, and they're both going ape shit, and my wife too. They're all just celebrating. And
where's the flag?
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, what's the catch here?
So I want to go back.
Wait, quit sniffing glue.
So after they make that kick, I texted you guys. What did I tell you guys? After Lutz made the first kick to go ahead by 6, and I texted you.
Oh, you said. Well, I said that I was close to because I had picked 27-20. And at that point, it was 27-21, and so I was like, "Man, I called the score almost perfectly."
No. I said,
I thought I thought you were responding to that, and you were like, "This is." I thought you were saying that I screwed the Saints.
No, as soon as Lutz kicked it, made it the lead 6, I said, we've seen this before.
We saw this exact thing versus Cleveland last year. The exact same play to score the touchdown. They even missed the kick, but the Texans got another crack at it. It's literally the Cleveland game play for play.
Just the Cleveland game. There's been other games too. I mean,
The
I mean,
Cleveland
it
game
had
is
a little
similar.
Ravens sprinkled in, right, with the missed extra point.
Yeah, Ravens too. But I mean, I just thought of Cleveland because it's at home, and the play was almost identical that they scored on.
But I texted y'all and I was like, the Texans are gonna fucking score here. I know it. This is. I mean, and I fucking called.
Negativity creeping in.
Freaking unbelievable.
I mean, you just can't be surprised. But I mean, I'm just and like like Peyton said, it's a good thing. And Peyton seemed in the press conference. I got the impression, the post game press conference, I got the impression he was really pissed about the defense and giving up that yardage.
How could he not be?
No, I know. But at the same time, he's seen this movie too. we're all in the same movie theater.
This is the fourth collapse of this defense late in the game in 2 years. You got the Minnesota disaster in 2017. You got Cleveland and Baltimore, and this one. Am I missing?
No, the Rams.
Well, yeah. I mean, the Rams. I don't necessarily count the Rams as a collapse because Greg Zerline, like that kick was a far kick, and it wasn't like the Rams went down in 15 seconds and scored. I mean, the ones that I'm talking about are Minnesota and this one in Cleveland are utter collapses.
And Baltimore, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Baltimore is close to an utter collapse, but the Rams I don't really put in the category. But if you wanted to, I'm not going to argue with you. But this is a problem. Like the end of the game, like it's a problem. And the thing is, Dave, I felt like in the game, I felt like Dennis Allen had no idea what he was doing. I feel like he was like, I'm going to try to cover with 8. That doesn't work. I'm going to try to blitz. That doesn't work. Like, he wasn't, and especially for long stretches, like, he didn't have a plan. He was just, like, calling a defense on Madden and just hoping that shit would work. Like,
I just think, like, if you're going to give safety help and hope that Lattimore can hold up on his own against Hopkins and Watson and Hopkins beat you, so be it. You live with that because Watson and Hopkins are superstars. But, like, sending a safety on a blitz in that situation and basically P.J. Williams being one-on-one with Kenny Stills. P.J. Williams can't run with Kenny Stills. So, I know we're all mad at P.J. Williams and we want to hate on him for giving up that touchdown. But is that really – I mean, obviously he's in that position. You want him to make the play, but can we really blame P.J. Williams there? Or is that
no? It's kind of like asking your dog to play the trumpet. Like,
I don't. Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great analogy. I wouldn't expect him to make that play. I mean, no.
So I mean,
I'm not. As far as the defense.
I mean, it'd be like telling Ralph, hey, use your bad hand and you go in here and throw this Hail Mary.
Look, to put a bow on it, I'm not concerned about the defense. It's the first game of the season. The Dennis Allen's MO for the last couple of years has always been they start off real loose and they tighten up.
Wait. Juke in the chat room says, "Can we talk about Skook's debut on ESPN? Was ESPN showing tweets during the game?"
Oh, probably.
And Skooks was up there. Was it a Saints tweet or was it like a local school district meeting tweet? Because Skooks does a lot of that.
I'm sure it was Saints related. But I'm not worried. I think that they're going to tighten up. That's what they've done.
No, it says he was on the screen. I think it was a live shot of him.
I guess so. He looks like. I don't know what he looks like.
Yeah. How do you know what Skooks looks like?
He's a kid.
I think somebody texted the person behind me. I think I was on the broadcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I usually make.
I didn't see you.
So, I mean, before we get to the good and the fun, the run defense was awful. But, Andrew, they had UDFAs playing, so that can get better.
One of them's already been released.
But if Sheldon Rankins either can't get back or gets back and he's like 75% of what he was last year, how do you see the run defense being? Or is it,
Well, I think there's huge strides to be made when you get Sheldon Rankins back, Mario Edwards, and David Onyemata. That's 3 defensive tackles that we're missing in this game. And so you look down the roster, and that's Mitchell Lowen, who was just released today to make room for Onyemata, who's back from suspension. But that's one guy back, and hopefully Mario Edwards and Rankins are not far behind. But yeah, I mean, Lowen and Shai Tuttle, I mean, they both had moments. Tuttle had a half sack. Lowen lit up Watson on a cleanup tackle at one point. But those guys are UDFAs, and I think the Saints did what they could to kind of get through that first game, and I'm happy that they were able to win without 3 defensive tackles. But it's hard at that position.
I mean, you eventually reach the point where, like, you can say, well, the next man's up, and you got to have depth and all that. There comes a point where, like, you just run out of guys, and it's it happened to the Saints at corner in 2014. Like, you're putting guys out there, and
you know what, Ralph? Destroyed. I think that number at defensive tackle might be 3.
I would say it's probably 2.
Like, when you lose 3 defensive tackles, you're probably hurt.
So the refs again were trash. Dave, are the Saints ever going to play a football game where the referees are not apologizing to us after the game?
No, at this point, it doesn't seem very likely, does it, Ralph? Does it?
It
doesn't seem very fucking likely that we're ever going to get a goddamn officiating crew that knows what the fuck they're doing and doesn't fuck shit up in favor of the opposing
team.
Do
the Saints have like a bat phone in the locker room that's just the NFL office to call them?
I love how the officials, like, there was one official that was like, the Saints game this weekend is going to be the most difficult game to officiate, and I love that the crew that we get is one that doesn't even understand the rules. Like, they've basically gone out there and said, this is going to be a really tough one because of what's transpired, and yet we get handed a crew that doesn't understand football. And I'm going to tell you something, like, as much as the Rams thing was offensive, and as much as we'll never forget that, and that we'll remember that as the most egregious thing ever, and the whole offseason dominated the headlines was how we were going to address pass interference and challenging it, and a rule change because of what
yesterday
happened.
Was worse.
It was a big deal.
Yesterday was actually
believe
worse.
That yesterday was worse because as bad as pass interference is, at least, and even though the refs were blind and dead wrong, at least that's a judgment call. This wasn't a judgment call. This was plain not knowing the rules.
It's like they gave the Texans a 5th down.
Correct.
I mean,
I don't even know if it's not knowing the rules. I think it's just. I think that. I mean, we're talking about a clock management.
It's an incorrect application of the rule.
As far as where they should have done made the 10-second runoff start from.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
When they went back to review the tape and they saw that Michael Thomas had gotten the first down, at that point, anything that transpired after that didn't happen. Right. And they have to go back to that point, which I believe was at 34 seconds, 33 seconds, whatever. And so if you do the 10-second runoff, which is a rule, the Saints at that point should have had 23 seconds, not 16. So they cost the Saints 7 seconds there, which is when you're kicking a 56-yarder at the gun at halftime, like 7 seconds could make it a 49-yarder. I mean,
I thought they cost them even more time than that.
It cost them more. And here's the thing, Mike, it's not that hard. It wasn't that hard to apply, and Andrew mentioned it today on the daily podcast, which now you don't get for free. You got to pay $7 or $10 a month. It's totally worth it. Eight of you signed up for it today. Those are smart people. You should do it too. So you get the podcast every day and Andrew's grades. But Andrew, you were saying that like Drew Brees and Sean Payton were trying to explain it to them, but I guess they didn't do a good enough job of it.
Yeah.
Because
what's funny is Sean Payton was mic'd for that game, and
on
the broadcast they didn't show Sean Payton say anything until the fourth quarter when like the Saints made a play and he just goes yes. And I just remember turning to my wife and saying Mawat and saying that
Mawat.
Yeah. You mean this? I'm
sorry. My wife.
I was
Slow
waiting
trigger.
for you to hit that. Yeah, you're really slow on that. But I remember turning to her and saying, like, does this really? He's been Mike the whole game, and all we get is yes. They waited 4 quarters to give us Sean Payton saying yes. But and I wish I could have heard his discussion with the referees at that point, because him and Drew Brees were talking to him, and I mean, I understood that right in the moment. Like, hey, you got to go back to where Michael Thomas was tackled, and I assume that they explained the rule to the ref at that point. And I'm just really surprised that he was having none of it. I'm surprised they weren't able to convince him.
That's why you're never seeing that footage. Because a ref, it will make a ref look horrible, and the NFL can't have it.
I think so too.
Like the NFL, they can say, "Hey, we got it wrong, and we apologize, and we're sorry, and we sent the Saints a letter." But you can't see that video. It's like, it's not, obviously it's not in the same realm of importance, but it's the same sort of theory with domestic violence. If you read about a player that he hit this woman, he gave her he broke her nose, he did this, he drug her, and you just read it, and you're like, oh, that's terrible. But if you see the video, you're like, oh my God, that is horrible. Like the Ray Rice situation. Now, it's not the same. Don't conflate it that it's the same. But it's the same sort of reaction where it just changes your opinion. And their opinions of the NFL refs will go down even further. And the NFL can't have it. You're never seeing that footage. I guarantee it. Never.
Yeah. Well, I can
burned.
tell you.
It's like the spy tapes from the New England. Goodell burned the tapes.
I'm relieved that the Saints won this game, because I think we can move on from not only the Rams. I think you remember how just with the Rams, the hardest thing about it was it ended our season. And so you had to go a whole off season sitting on that. That was our lasting memory of how things ended. And to get back to this point, if the Saints would have lost that game the way that it transpired, I mean, to lose a heartbreaker like that, and then by 1 point with this dubious call at the end of half, which absolutely affected 3 points in there. I just feel like we would have been right back to the Rams thing. And I just think that would have been.
PTSD was kicking in.
Yeah, it would have been horrible. And so honestly, like, as excited as I am about the way it ended and the Saints winning and all that, like, there's a little bit of relief that, like, God, I'm glad we're not going through that this week.
Totally. And they just have the schedule's hard. We'll get to it as we preview the next set of games. And speaking of which, we will pick the game at the end of the show against the spread. But Dave, if you wanted to do reckless online gambling like I did this weekend and come out ahead and make money, where should you go to do that?
Well, if you found $100 on the street, would you pick it up or would you keep walking? Of course you take the money. So why do you keep picking winners and not betting on them? That's why I go to MyBookie. It's fast, it's easy, and they pay when you win. Let's face it. Where you're betting is just as important as who you're betting on. Hey, did you know you could bet on games after kickoff if you're a degenerate gambler? If by the second half it looks like your bet is going to lose, you can always just take the other side. So join now, and MyBookie will double your first deposit. Use promo code ARMCHAIR to activate the offer. That's promo code ARMCHAIR. So visit MyBookie.ag today. That's MyBookie. You play, you win, you get paid.
And I'll add, if you sign up with a $50 deposit in the next 2 weeks, send the confirmation that you used the promo code, and we will send you a check for $20. Armchair Media will do that for you. So just send. I love how you just play it at like random, like it doesn't have any rhyme or reason. There's nothing that I can do to like trigger it or bring it along.
Any rhyme or reason.
No, it really doesn't.
It's on its own. It's an iceberg in a cold.
You know what it's like. It's like Where's Waldo? You know, at some point in the podcast, the Pels Got Zion voicemail is going to get played, and you're just kind of looking through the podcast, listening, and at what point can you? Ah, there it was. You know, it's like Where's Waldo?
So Dave, we joke a lot about Loomis math and that the salary cap is just a social contract and the Saints can do whatever they want. Right. But
I think that makes Loomis like a hippie.
it does, kind of. He's like a hippie with numbers. But here's the thing. They paid Thomas, they have to pay Kamara, Lattimore probably, and Ramczyk erased J.J. Watt. So where is he now in the pecking order of we got to pay him? Because he went to a whole other level last night.
Do we know that J.J. Watt was playing well and that Ramczyk was really playing the best?
You would know that if
J.J.
you read
Watt
Andrew's grades.
Well, I'm not a patron. I'm only on the podcast. Jesus Christ, I can't even get a free. Even the guy on the podcast.
Yeah, you don't get access to that, Dave.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But well, it's like PFT commenter on Pardon My Take always says, this is why you don't want to draft well. Then this shit happens, and you got to pay all these guys. If you didn't draft well, then you wouldn't have to pay these people. So it's a problem, and the Saints really need to figure it out.
Here's a question. Does Ramczyk, what does he have to do, Andrew, to move ahead of Lattimore in the he's got to get paid pecking order?
I wonder if he already has.
Ooh.
And I say that because I just want to point back to a couple things. And I said this on the paid podcast today, and I've said this on the radio a couple times today. Anytime the Saints win, I get so many more radio requests. It's hilarious. I think one thing that stands out to me, and we talked about how J.J. Watt, he's played 150 games. He's never had a game where he didn't record a tackle or a QB hit. And he had neither. He didn't have he's not on the stat sheet. He didn't have a single tackle. He didn't have a hit. He didn't have anything. He did draw one hold. So Ramczyk did get flagged once for holding, but Ramczyk was my offensive player of the game in my grades. And, I said to you before the game that it was a good sign if Watt was being moved around, because that meant they were trying to get him a different matchup, and that happened. And I also told you that I felt like this was kind of a reference game for Ramczyk. And he was going up against J.J. Watt, and it was a tremendous matchup for him. And, to me, it was one of those things where it's like, hey, let's see how he does. And we're going to get some insight into, is he a Zach Strief?
Hey, Andrew, I have some insight.
Pay that man his money.
That's my insight.
Yeah. So we have the question, like, is he a Zach Strief kind of right tackle? Nothing wrong with that. Great player, long career, beloved by Saints fans. Or is he a perennial Pro Bowler who down the road may have a chance at the Hall of Fame kind of player? And, that may be a little extreme, but I think Ramczyk maybe got a little bit closer to that today and showed us the kind of ceiling that he has. And I really believe he's the best right tackle in the NFL right now.
I'm not just saying that because he's probably going to come on the podcast at some point, but Zach Strief he's getting really good at the radio play-by-play thing. Like he's really good at it. And if he wants it, he's going to be the Saints radio play-by-play guy for a really, really long time. Dave, do you have
while we're on the subject of the O-line, I think we should also shout out Eric McCoy. I think he's been a wonderful surprise at center.
How much better was he than late stage Unger, Andrew?
Well, physically, I would say he was just stronger at the point of attack, especially in the run game. I thought he was good. Pass pro, there was a couple things that he needs to clean up. I thought the location of his snaps was hit or miss. I think a couple times there were some low snaps. I didn't love that. And because the Saints were spread 5 wide a lot of the game, they were out of the shotgun a ton in this game. And that's going to take some work and need some cleaning up, because say what you will about Unger, but his snap location was always pretty spot on, even when he declined. So you don't want to fumble there, and that's a concern moving forward. That's something he just needs to tighten up. But in terms of his blocking, it was good. So I picked Ramczyk as my player of the game. I noticed Pro Football Focus listed Larry Warford as their best player of the game, and he was also very good. But Andres Pete's been catching a lot of heat, and this is a contract year for him, and I thought he was phenomenal in this game as well. The Saints threw the ball 43 times, and they ran the ball 21 times, so it's roughly 2-1. In fact, it's a little more than that, pass to run. So there wasn't a lot of balance, and despite the fact that the Saints were throwing that much, and sometimes they were going 5 wide out of the shotgun where there was no running back, there was no possibility of them running the ball. And despite this, Breeze was sacked 1 time and hit 3 times the whole game. Now, give Breeze credit for getting rid of the ball quickly, but I think we got an insight and we got a chance to see how good this offensive line can be when it's healthy. And that's damn good.
Dave, he mentioned the Saints running game. I know you were very sad about Mark Ingram doing well in Baltimore, but do you have a new boo? Because Latavius Murray had a 30-yard touchdown.
Yeah, it was pretty good. That was a nice little run he had. But he's got a long way to go before I anoint him the next Mark Ingram. But I actually would have liked to. I think I saw Jeff Duncan tweeted. I think Kamara had 20 touches and Murray had like 8 or 7 or something like that. And obviously, I mean, Kamara is going to be going to have more touches, but I'd like to see a little bit more Latavius Murray. I'd like to see if they can use him like they use Mark Ingram and give.
I did really enjoy that the broadcast was talking about how much the Saints missed Mark Ingram, and Murray ran the very next play 30 yards for a touchdown.
I saw that Booger said when they line up Taysom Hill at tight end, it takes the mystery away because he can either run a route or he can block. Like, I mean, I guess so, but like, what is a tight end? Like, what else is a tight end gonna do? I don't know. So, but that's an interesting point. Like, is yesterday going to be the trend? Both of you think of Kamara in the 20 to 20 touch range, and then everybody else, Murray at 8 to 10, because if Kamara does 20, that's almost it's 320 touches, right, for the year.
I mean, I would like to see, I don't know, it may go game by game. I mean, there may be certain games where Peyton, says, you know what, today we're going to favor Murray. We're going to go with him more. Obviously, assuming usually at the beginning of the game, they give everybody a few touches and they kind of figure out, like Peyton says, we got to go with the hot hand. So if there was ever a situation where early in a game, Latavius Murray looks like he's the hot hand, all I want to do is I want to see Peyton stick with that and keep feeding him, as opposed to going away from it, even when even on a day or a night or whatever, when it seems like Murray might be the guy.
Yeah, it's just. The thing is, Andrew, not that we gnashed our teeth though, but it was a big discussion point on receiver. Who's going to be another receiver behind Michael Thomas? Is it going to be Butler? Is it going to be Austin Carr? Is it going to, all these different guys? And it ended up being 9,000-year-old Ted Ginn catching 7 balls for 100 yards. So where are you with the receivers behind Michael Thomas? Take Kamara out of the equation.
Yeah, I mean, I expected Jared Cook to maybe be a little bit more involved, so I was surprised. Yeah, I mean, he had a nice catch.
Yeah, I'll bet you did, Ralph.
Yeah. Off to a slow start there, buddy, for $182.
I'll wait for Andrew to finish, but after this, I really want to hear how your week in fantasy football went with Jared Cook.
Not well.
Jared Cook and the $1 All-Stars. That's what they ought to call your team.
I have Jared Cook and the Hobos is what my team name is.
Oh, that's fucking perfect.
But continue, Andrew. We'll get to my fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was surprised not to see him. It was nice to see Traquan Smith make a couple plays. Nothing fancy, but yeah, it was weird. I mean, as much as the Saints threw the ball, it was really all Michael Thomas, Kamara, and Ted Ginn. It was really those three. I mean, Traquan made a couple catches. Keith Kirkwood played a handful of snaps, and he never saw the ball. Austin Carr was inactive, so it's just funny to me that a lot of these receivers made the team and they're not really contributing yet. So we'll see if I think you know how this offense is. At some point, their number is going to get called and they will get a chance to contribute. And this time it was Traquan. He was kind of the one guy that got the touchdown and had another catch, and it was just great to see Breeze. I feel like we have to say this about Breeze because I thought his interception was horrible. There's no two ways around. I think a lot of us were talking just about arm strength. There's a lot of arm truther stuff going around after the first half, but he really responded. In the second half, I just thought
they have a large segment of Twitter that don't understand the arm truther jokes. Like, I have like 3 or 4 people in my timeline right now yelling at me, and I'm just making jokes about Drew Brees going to Europe and getting goat's blood, and they're just like, "Did you see the play? You don't understand football. His throwing base was off, and this and that." And I'm like, "You just don't get the joke." But another positive, Dave, was Trey Hendrickson. I'll let Dave. I'll let you talk about Trey Hendrickson being good, and Andrew, you can talk about Davenport being kind of terrible.
I can't talk about Trey Hendrickson being good because I wasn't like particularly focusing on Trey Hendrickson, or I don't know. I was at the game. I wasn't watching it on TV.
I mean, I saw his sack that he did for that he beat Tunsil like a drum, and got one of his sacks.
I can actually talk about Davenport because what I will tell you, he was a little tail from the sideline since I sit right behind the bench. After Lutz hit that kick and everybody ran out in the field and celebrated, Davenport walked by himself into the locker room.
Wow.
Sulking with his head down.
Well, I mean, his play against Deshaun Watson on the first Texans touchdown, where I literally called it on Twitter. I was like, "It's 4th down. Here comes the Deshaun Watson sweep." It's Bill O'Brien's.
You actually texted that to me before you tweeted it.
I texted it to
you. You really did call it.
And I was like, "It's the Texans. It's Bill O'Brien's go-to play on 4th and less than 3. Like, he doesn't know anything else. And like, if I can know it, the drunk cripple in section 641 of the Dome, why can't the Saints do it?" And he runs. Marcus Davenport just blows containment, and Deshaun Watson, he ended up not walking in. He actually got injured on the play, but like, it was way too easy to pick up the 4th down, and I wanted to punch a wall.
He didn't look too injured on that drive with 50 seconds left.
He did not.
I'll tell you that.
But he did take a trip to the Tent of Sadness.
He did twice.
But yeah, is it time to raise the Marcus Davenport bust watch to a warning, Andrew?
I think so.
I think it's when you go to the beach and it's like yellow flag, where it's like, yeah, you can swim in the ocean, but just be careful. Keep an eye on your kids. It's not it's not the red flag yet.
I would say like Jim Cantori isn't getting on the plane yet, but like you called him and you've said, "Hey."
He's aware of a disturbance in the Atlantic, and he's keeping an eye on it. It's something that could develop here. Yeah.
You don't want Jim Cantori coming to your town.
Yeah, that's true. You don't want Jim Cantori coming to your town. So, besides the pass rush was good. Look, the Texans' offensive line is a mess, but 6 sacks is 6 sacks, man. And at any time between 2012 and 2016, if the Saints had got 6 sacks in a game, we would be replaying and each one of them on this podcast like they were works of art. So
They had some missed opportunities too. They were on more than one
It could have
occasion.
been a lot more, yeah.
Yeah, on more than one occasion, some of those guys went flying by the quarterback and missing tackle.
yeah, like Goff, that one that Demario Davis whiffed. If they do that against Goff, like Goff isn't
yeah.
going to do the Olay move that Watson did. Goff is going to get
Yeah.
crushed.
The Mario Davis one. God,
This game felt very Greg Williams, though. I mean, there was binge blitzing going on. It was
because I feel like Dennis Allen was reaching, like his plan wasn't working, and he was just reaching the bag and pulling it out.
I saw him go double corner blitz. Eli Apple
Oh,
and
man, that's full
Lattimore
double
both
G.
blitz. I saw him drop Davenport into. He was getting real exotic. I saw him drop Davenport to the middle of the field in coverage at one point. I saw him. I mean, Demario Davis was blitzing constantly. PJ Williams got a sack. Anzalone got a sack. So Von Bell was the one that hit Watson and destroyed him on that last touchdown pass. So there was a lot of blitzing going on from a lot of different parts of the field.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, are we concerned at corner behind Lattimore more than we were going into the year? Because they all had their moments of awful, and I don't think any of them got above a D+ from you in your grades.
Yeah, it wasn't a great day in coverage. I mean, sometimes you got to tip your cap to. I thought Watson was throwing the ball awesome. I thought he looked great. And, I've long said that kind of he's not that young anymore, but the one quarterback that I always said that I would want if I was building a franchise was Russell Wilson. I said that, 5 years ago when he was a little bit younger. And since then, I haven't really seen a ton of guys where I'm like, yeah, I like some things about some quarterbacks, don't love others. I mean, obviously Mahomes is ridiculous, but I don't know. Watson to me in that game looked kind of pretty close to having elite potential.
Here's a question for you, Andrew, or Dave. Is Anzalone, is his time, how much more can he play and not be good, and they bring in Kiko Alonso? How much more rope does he have? Hello?
Dave, unmute yourself.
No, I'm not. He said you or Dave, so I didn't know who the hell that was.
Dave was being nice and courteous, waiting. Because nothing is more fun than dead air.
Yeah. Well, if we had a producer,
we
made more money.
Well, if more people would donate, maybe we could hire one.
There you go. That's where I was going with that. Then somebody could edit that out, or Ralph, you could just not be a lazy son of a bit. No, I'm kidding.
What's editing? I don't even know what that is.
Editing. What is that? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know shit about Kiko Alonso, to be honest with you.
Neither do I. I know he's really good looking, but Andrew, okay, well that's a question for you. Is how much rope does Anzalone have?
It's funny. Just hearing Dave belch just now, it reminds me of that one review we got on Apple that was just scathing. We got 1 star, and it was just this one guy that was highly offended about the belching on the podcast. So
that reminds me.
I hope that guy is listening right now.
I hope that. It doesn't matter. Give us
the good old days.
Go to Apple, subscribe, give us 5 stars, and then unsubscribe and subscribe again. We got to number 84 for North American football podcasts on Apple. And if you people would just go and subscribe and give us good reviews, we can get in the top 50.
We could get to 83, baby. We could get to 83.
We could get in the top 75. Yeah. It can happen. It doesn't cost you anything. Just give us a 5-star review and say they're awesome. It's 5 seconds.
Sorry. So what was the question you had again?
Is Kiko Alonso?
Oh, Kiko Alonso. Yeah. How much rope? How much rope does the Mario brother have?
To hang
Yeah, with his hair.
No rope necessary.
Yeah, no rope necessary. Just use his hair. I think Anzalone's got a banged up shoulder, first of all, and that's kind of the issue. I just don't think they bring in Alonso to begin with unless they're kind of worried about what's going on with Anzalone, because this is something that he's dealt with in college, and then his first year he spent most of it on IR because of the shoulder, and again, it's a shoulder issue. So this keeps creeping up, and I think that's a big reason why. I mean, I think Craig Robertson being injured too, they just wanted to have a vet linebacker be a backup. But I think the Saints kind of made this move thinking, we don't know that we can count on Anzalone all year. So right now, I think it's less about he should be looking over his shoulder. I think it's his job as long as he's staying healthy and playing well. I think the Saints just want someone that's ready and capable to go if he can't. So I don't know that he should be worried about his job yet. Now, if this injury prevents him from playing at peak level, then I think a change could come pretty quickly.
Here's Super Deform asks, how do you detune Nintendo music? Hey, man, the soundboard is the soundboard. But Tom Stewart asked a good question. What's wrong with Dennis Allen in games 1 and 2? I don't think defense was as bad this year, opening week, as it was last year. If you take out the Dolphins, which they're not even a pro football team at this point. But I didn't feel like the defenses were as bad this week 1 as they were last year. I mean, like the Saints gave up a shit ton of points. They had like 3 or 4 others. I didn't feel like the defenses were that bad until Monday night. Did you guys feel that way, or did you just not watch any games Sunday? You just got shit-faced drunk.
What was I doing? I don't remember what I did on.
I thought the quarterback play was really bad on Sunday, generally.
Other than Lamar Jackson and
Yes.
Dak Prescott.
Well, Lamar Jackson was playing the Dolphins. That doesn't count. You know how every year people are like, would Alabama beat the Browns? Would Clemson beat the Browns? And yeah, it's always like ridiculous and stupid. I actually think Alabama might be able to beat the Dolphins this year.
I don't know.
Because not only are they terrible, they really don't care.
Yeah, that is true. Like I definitely think if you picked the best college football team of the last 10 years, whatever college team you wanted to pick, and you played them the year they were the best college team against this year's Dolphins team, I think they could beat the Dolphins. The Dolphins are horrific. The problem is they don't have anything more to liquidate in their roster, so they're of no interest to us. But
yeah, I mean, just to illustrate how bad the quarterback play was, usually you've got a ton of guys posting huge numbers, especially early in the season when the weather's better. Of course, you had Dak and Lamar Jackson both had perfect ratings of 158.3. So they played lights out. But after them, there was just a lot of quarterbacks that were. Aaron Rodgers wasn't very good. Matt Ryan was bad. Sam Darnold obviously didn't look very good. Garoppolo was just kind of so-so. Kyler Murray threw 2 picks. Cam Newton looked horrible. Kyler Murray threw 1 pick. I'm sorry. Cam Newton looked terrible. Jared Goff is the 31st ranked passer. He did not play well. Ben Roethlisberger is ranked 33. Trubisky is 35. And 36 is Jameis Winston. Baker Mayfield was bad. So I'm just saying, like, a lot of these guys, I mean, these are a lot of household names in there. But I was very surprised at how bad, in general, quarterback play was in week 1.
So you look at what the Saints have, and it's Tampa last year ended up not meaning a damn thing, so you can't really jump to conclusions. But we talked about it on the Sunday podcast of the rest of the NFC South being potentially awful, and your static team is.
Wait. Where was the Office Space jump to conclusion soundbite?
I don't have that. I need that one.
Piece of shit.
There you go.
I have that.
Piece of shit.
But the Tampa and Carolina play each other, and Atlanta plays Philly. So
Who plays Philly?
Atlanta, they host Philly Sunday night. So
Is that the same team that Matt Ryan is the quarterback for?
it is.
Just to make it 28-3. Bryant knocks it through. Arthur Blank loving it. Up by 25.
So there you go. But I just look at the South, man, and if the Saints can somehow, some way, get this Rams win, it would just be amazing. And also, too, when the Saints win, I have a better chance of one-upping Eric Paulson in the Monday morning interview, which is good. And, oh, by the way, if you saw it, I totally defeated Paulson because he wore a red tie on Monday, and I called him out on it repeatedly during the 5 minutes I was on, and I declare victory.
I looked for the video and I didn't see it. Is it?
They
is it
did
up?
it. They WWL, their web team. They have like one of them left and like two of them are on vacation. They are like super short-staffed this week and next. So
So we're not going to get to see it?
I don't think you may get to see next Monday, but it's effing.
on.
You got
No,
this,
but I want to see you tool on him for the tie. There's no video of this?
there's video. They just didn't post it.
Oh,
I know it's probably my of all my appearances, probably my best one ever. And I just it's not on the internet forevermore. They'll get me when Paulson humiliates me and cat mayhem happens in the background. They'll have that one online for sure. But the one where I'm victorious, they don't have it.
Of course.
sounds like the NFL not posting the refs. The Sean Payton conversation with the refs.
Totally, that's how it is. Dave, I'm gonna play this, but it's kind of bad news in a sense of Deontay Harris. He wasn't a train wreck Monday, but he was pretty bad.
Well, what the fuck was he thinking catching that ball on the 3-yard line or whatever the fuck it was, or the 5-yard line? I mean,
it was inside the 5, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dude, come on now.
Michael Sizemore says we need the safety first, then teamwork line from Pineapple Express every time a quarterback or a wide receiver makes a business decision. That's a good one.
But I'm not ready. I'm not ready to, I'm not ready to give up on, because I'm sure in the next week or two, he's gonna bust one. He's gonna break one loose. He's getting a touchdown.
Yeah, if Sean Payton doesn't bench his ass first.
In fact, if we're doing predictions tonight, that's my prediction. Deontay Harris, punt return touchdown.
Well, let's get
God, that would be magical.
Let's get to it, and we can start by reviewing the predictions from last week. Let's start out with the Survivor League has one less person in the Saints Happy Hour podcast league that's on this show. That would be me, because I believed in the Browns, and they do what the Browns do. They shit all over themselves and lost 43-13 at home to the Titans.
Sometimes it really amazes me sometimes how stupid some people are. It really does. Like, I can't believe that anybody in week 1 would bet on the Browns.
They're still the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, until they're like 11-1 or whatever, don't fucking talk to me about the fucking Browns. Jesus Christ. Idiots, all of you.
Super Deforms asks, when will WWL TV tweet a slur about Ralph? Because the WWL 870 account
going to take the low road one day. By week
tweeted
12,
a slur against Seth Dunlap. But Seth Dunlap is their own host. He works at their channel, and
I know.
What is that? I mean,
it's so weird.
What did he say?
Well, I mean, I won't repeat it. But
have to say
Seth
the
Dunlap
word.
is gay, and
Oh.
the WWL 870 AM
It was
account
a homophobic slur. Yeah.
used a slur against him,
The F
which,
word.
it would be
Really?
one thing if it was just a
Yes.
rando account tweeting it.
I'm with you. Like, it was shocking to see that because it's just like, there's no way that this account, there's no way that someone in that building is that stupid, right? And they have the keys to the car, like they have controls to the social media account.
Here's the thing, though. As a person that has worked at multiple companies and run different social media, sometimes companies, you'd be surprised, they don't know who has access to what.
Well, you've already answered the question, because when you said that you have keys to some of the cars, I mean, that's a mistake right there. Letting somebody trusting you.
That's true. That is true. But I'm just saying, like, they could, like, that account for WWL, they could have a dozen people have access to it. You don't know.
Right.
That's why they took 5 hours to release the statement. They probably have to, like, figure out who has access and fun. But it was wild. But if WWL wants to tweet slurs at me, there's nothing they can say to me that you people don't say to me on the podcast. Like, I mean, come on. But so I'm out of this. I'm out.
I don't know,
of the
but
survival
seriously
pool.
though, like, shame on them. Seriously,
Yeah,
that
like,
was horrible.
It's horrible.
I mean, I know we're joking about this, but that was so bad.
It's horrible. The tweet itself, and you mix in the incompetence of probably having a dozen people run the social media. It's just it's mind blowing that it comes from their own account, and the people over there. They have some good people at WWL Radio. They're probably in, like, crisis management mode right about now. But the survivor pool, you two both made it through. You don't have to. Andrew, you won't give out your pick until the Friday gambling show, which you can listen to it live for free, but you only get archive access to it later.
I don't know if you want to take my gambling advice after my showing on Friday.
I mean, one of us.
Hey guys, if you saw $100 on the street, would you pick it up? Of course you would.
Probably, yeah. I probably would.
The we're gonna have the Todd Newberg. He's gonna be our guest patron picker. He's going to join us on Friday and give out his gambling advice. He is a full-on gambling degenerate. He will not mind me saying that. Me and him were DMing on Saturday. He was doing in-game betting on college football and was applauding my Rutgers pick of Iowa -20 versus Rutgers, and Iowa covered. So he's a full-on degenerate. So join us for that on Friday.
Well, listen, if you pay and you're a patron, then you get to, first of all, you get to listen to that gambling show on Friday, but also the Todd Newberg is our first contestant. So you enter a pool to be selected to compete against us in this gambling pool. And if you beat both of us, you get to stay on every Friday until you lose. So good luck to you this Friday, Bodhisattva. You're going to need it.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring my A game.
Wheel of gambling. So as for the Saints game, Sunday, 3 o'clock. It's weird that the Saints don't play a noon game until October. But I'll start with you, Dave. Rams, 3-point favorite. All the extracurricular, blown call, baggage, anger, angst, fury goes into this game. Who you got?
Oh, Chargers totally. I mean, the Rams totally for sure. No, I'm kidding. I'm surprised that they're favored by the Rams are favored by 3. That's home field advantage, pretty much.
I thought it would be a little bit more, maybe. I don't know.
I'm actually.
So they're basically saying it would be a pick'em on a neutral field.
Yeah. I'm still.
Do the Rams actually get home field advantage points though? Like, since they don't have fans.
That's why it's kind of surprising, because like they don't really have they don't have a crowd that that certainly can't compare to Who Dat Nation. But anyway, I can't guarantee that there won't be any interference or from the referees or anything they may do that might alter the outcome of the game. But barring we can get through a game with just normal officiating, I don't think that the Rams are the same team that they were last year. Gurley is questionable. He wasn't used that much. I mean, he had like 100. I mean, but he picked up all that yardage late in the game, and I don't know.
Gurley is questionable for this game?
No. I mean, just questionable. It's like, he's not the same player he was 2 years ago.
He didn't even get goal line carries.
He didn't get the goal line carries.
Malcolm Brown, I think.
He did pick up a bunch of. He did, yeah. But he did pick up a bunch of yardage late in the game. I mean, it's not like he's a total deadbeat, but
no, he looked pretty good. I just think the Rams are really, really managing his touches and not like in a we promise we're going to do it, and then the game gets close and they don't do it. I really think like he's on some sort of pitch count early in the year.
He is. He definitely is, and so he's just not as scary as he used to be. But I mean, look, this is football, and it's all about motivation and how you play out on that field and what drives you. And nobody's going to be more motivated on Sunday in that stadium than the Saints are going to be. And a motivated Saints team that is really hungry and that really, really, really wants to win. Yeah, they usually get what they want. So I just don't see the Saints losing this game. I know it's in LA, West Coast, a time difference, but and Goff too. So far, this past week, Goff didn't look incredible. I just I'm just not sold, and I'm not that impressed on the Chargers, and so I'm going to go.
Rams.
I mean, sorry, the Rams. It's like the LA thing. I can't keep them straight. But anyway, Chargers are next week, though, right?
Nope.
Oh, sorry, Seattle. Yeah, I knew we were going to the West Coast. But so I'm going to say Saints. I think they're going to put up a bunch of points. I'm going to say Saints 38, and I'm going to say Rams 21. And I already said it, Deontay Harris. He's going to.
Oh yeah, punt return. Yeah. Andrew, who you got?
It's funny. The last time I picked the Saints to lose, which was probably like week 9 of last year, I had like people come at me on Twitter like, "How can you call yourself a Saints fan and pick against the Saints?" I mean, I guess I could pick them to go crazy pills. I guess I could pick them to go 16-0 every year, but I feel like I picked them to go 11-5, so I got to pick them to lose some games this year. That doesn't mean I'm not a Saints fan and that I'm not rooting for them to win. People, it just means I'm being realistic that they can't win every single one. It doesn't make me a bad fan, but I feel like this is a tough one. I just don't feel like the defense is there yet. And I think the Rams at home are going to clean up some stuff offensively. So I think the Rams are going to come at them strong. I'm nervous about Brandon Cooks. I just feel like he has played pretty well against the Saints the last couple times. And, with this whole PJ thing and not looking that good, and I don't know, it just makes me nervous. So I think it's going to be the opposite, actually. I think it's the Rams are going to put up a lot of points, and it's going to be like 38-21. And the Saints will be close for a little while, like maybe down a couple scores, but like they'll get the ball back and there'll be hope. And then at some point there'll be a Kamara fumble or something, and they'll put us away. So, listen, I think we knew the schedule was going to be hard, and this is why we said the Texans game was important to win. We know that we said, hey, if you can get 2-2 through these first 4 games, then you've set yourself up well for the rest of the season.
No, if they're 2-2, they've set me up to interview Les East, is what they've done. They cannot be 2-2.
That's true. But I think they dropped this one. I'm going to pick the Rams to win, but I will say the Saints player of the game will be, I think Michael Thomas seems to always do well against the Rams. I think he'll have a big one.
Well, I was all set to agree with you, Andrew, but here's the thing. Like, I picked the Saints 14-2. If I pick them to lose to the Rams, it basically means that I've already changed my mind about my 14-2 prediction. But I can't change it because that's what it is. So, the Saints are winning. 34-24. The Saints are going to look amazing. I'm sure Antonio Brown is going to get cut because he got accused of raping a woman. Maybe the Patriots, they'll cut him loose, and the Saints will slide back up to being the Super Bowl favorite by the middle of next week. How about that?
It would be the Saintsiest thing ever if they were to crush the Rams, crush the Seahawks, come back, crush the Cowboys, be 4-0, we're on cloud 9, and then they lose to Tampa. That would be this. That would be very Saints.
Jameis lights them up. That'd be almost like classic Peyton.
I'm kind of here for that. I'll be honest. Winning those first 4 games and then losing at home to Tampa, who's winless at the time, like I'm kind of here for that.
Yeah, it would be. I'm not. They got to go 14.
Yeah, I mean, if you were offered that right now, you would take it.
Yeah, I probably would. Did y'all get Leslie's phone number, by the way?
You better start thinking of nice things to say to him.
I know. I went to complimentafriend.com. Make a list.
Are you being serious?
Have you been to compliment an enemy yet?
No.
Is that really a website?
No, I don't know. No, probably is.
I just made that up.
So Jock says, "Yeah, right. The Patriots aren't cutting him. Yeah, that's my mistake. He could. They literally have had murderers on their team, so they're not cutting Antonio Brown. I'm so dumb." But this wraps up the big show. And like we said, look, seriously, rate us, review us. If we could get in the top 75 or 50 just one time, then me and Andrew can screenshot it, and it can be our avatar for the Saints Happy Hour Twitter for like a week that we were that high.
So would you really want to deprive us of something like that?
Yeah, I mean, come on. This little ramshackle podcast with no network, with no marketing.
We have ads.
We have ads. We don't have like marketing. We don't have a producer. We don't have. We barely have passable audio 75% of the time. I mean, and for us to be in the top 50, it's like the little crippled drunk engine.
Yeah, we only have 5 working hands between the three of us.
Oh. Well, no, we have Kevin when Kevin shows up, so we have 7.
It's an odd number. That's all we need to know.
So yesterday was amazing. That's why you people love this sport. That's why we love the Saints. It was just tremendous. So it's been fun tonight. Thanks for all the 50 or so of you that were in the live stream. It may have been more than that. So for Dave, for Andrew, for Kevin who's MIA, I'm Ralph. Until next week, the bar is closed.
Want to know, baby? First place.